Hello and welcome back. So the first step to rolling out our authentication system is to add has secure password to our chef's model. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go to app, models, and then chef. Right here, type in has secure password. Okay. The second step is to add the password digest attribute to our chef's table. Okay, and that's where the bcrypt hash version of the password for chefs is going to be stored. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. And anytime we want to make a modification to our table, our database tables, is Rails generate migration, then add password digest to chefs. All right, we see that it created the migration file. So let's go ahead and open it up. So under DB, there it is. So we want to add a column to the chef's table. Attribute will be password underscore digest, and this has to be password digest. Okay, you can't name it something else. And then type string. Save that. Rake space db colon migrate to run the migration. Okay, so believe it or not, that's all we need. Now let's jump into Rails console. All right, chef. Okay, we see we got an error. What is the error? Okay, load error, cannot load such file, bcrypt. So we need to add the bcrypt gem to our application. Okay, so let's go ahead and add that. Right here, below bootstrap, which was the last one we added, type in gem bcrypt. Gonna check the version number real quick so that I believe it's 3.1.7, but I just want to make sure. Yep, it is 3.1.7, so to type in 3.1.7. Save that. Exit out of the console. Bundle install to install the gem. And there you go, installing bcrypt. Perfect. So now let's jump into Rails console again. Chef.all. Now we see we have 2 chefs and password digest is nil, right? So how do we set the password? Okay, so there are 2 methods that we need to be concerned with. One is a setter method for password digest, which is password. Okay, so that's a virtual attribute. We're not going to refer to this as password digest. When we refer to it, we can say something like this: chef equals chef.first, chef. So if we want to do something to chef's password, we type in chef.password and then provide the password. Okay. Now that's the setter method for password. How do we retrieve it? Okay. How do we compare a password that's entered in? We do that by typing in chef.authenticate. Okay. And then within brackets, we type in the password, so whatever the password is, and then if we hit enter here, it will return, if the password that we supply here is correct, it will return the chef object, so this object, but if it's not correct, it will just return false. Okay, so let's go ahead and give it a shot. So I'm going to set chef's password. So chef.password equals password. Chef.save. Okay, you see that chef.password digest. Notice this password digest and this string. That's the bcrypt hash using salt of the string password. Okay, so now that we have the chef saved, we can type in, let's say Bob equals chef.first. Okay, bob.authenticate, and let me provide an incorrect password. Let's say incorrect. Whoops, made an error there. Bob.authenticate, incorrect, and you see that it says false. If I do bob.authenticate and then provide the right password, we see that it returns Bob object, right? It returns the chef object associated with the chef. All right. So now that we know how to set password and how to retrieve password, we have all the information we need to build our custom authentication system. All right. But before we build the functionality of logging in and logging out, we're going to add the ability to add users, edit users, and basically create a resource for users. And we're going to follow a very similar path to how we added recipes. Now, if you remember, when we spec'd this out, we already have a chef model with validations, and we have chef's table. And now we added the password digest attribute to the chef's table. So all we need to do now is to create a chef's resource. So let's go ahead and do that. So first thing we're going to do is add routes. So let's go to our routes.rb file. And here we're going to do resources and chefs. Okay. However, we don't want to. Let's see. Actually, first let's see what routes it gives us. So I'm going to exit out of console and then do rake routes. Okay, that's a lot going on. So rake routes and then bar and then grep. What are we looking for? Chef. So this will give us only the chef routes. Okay, there you go. So what this gave us is we have chefs, which lists the index for chefs, and then the chefs create action, which will go to /chefs, which is a post. New chef. Now, here we see new chefs going to chefs.new, which will probably be a register link, right? So when a chef signs up for the app, we want it to go to /register, not chefs.new. Okay, so here, except new. Okay, so that won't create the new route, but we still need the new route. So how do we get that? Following this method right here, get route, and then point it to a controller action. So we can do something like this: get /register and point it to chef's controller, new action. Okay, this route right here. Okay, so now let's try our rake routes again. Okay, right here, you see register, /register, chef's controller, new action. Okay, perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. So the next thing we want to do, let's see what happens when we go to this route. So I'm going to start the server. Okay, here's the app that was running from before, so let me go to the index page. Okay, everything still seems to be working. Okay, so here I want to go to register path. It says uninitialized constant chef's controller. So chef's controller is missing. Let's go ahead and create chef's controller. And if you remember, we add the chef's control. We added under app controllers. We currently don't have a chef's controller, so let's go ahead and add this. Right click, new file, and we'll call it chefs_controller.rb. Okay, class chefs controller, camel case, subclass application controller, and